I am the queen of enjoying every moment, never wanting something good to come to an end, and a late checkout is the embodiment of that. I'm your host, Brian Janela. Not only are you my husband and my best friend, but you are my number one travel buddy, which it's apropos that you are the first guest. I'm very excited for this. You are the
well, it's
number
an honor
one
to be here and the first of many, I know, I'm sure.
I hope so. If the people like you, we'll see. We'll see.
You should have a voting in the comments.
I feel like I have to shout out that you were the brain behind naming this podcast. You were.
I was going to be humble about it. I wasn't. I'll let you do your thing, baby.
No, I
let
love
it take
it.
off.
So welcome to the podcast that you named, Mr. Brian Janela.
Ooh, yeah.
I feel like this is the first time we're truly recapping the story of how we actually got to Zurich. Like, I feel like we're always kind of like reminiscing on some funny stories that have happened with our transition here, but like really recapping it and going back and combing through it and sharing it with people, I think is super special. So I feel like I needed you on for this podcast.
Yeah, honestly, with ourselves too, because like you said, I don't think we ever really sat back and we have our moments, but never like, no, it's true. That pure reflection and it's really powerful.
No,
so
I totally agree.
I'm ready. Let's do
it. It's been 5 years since we've moved here, a little over like five and a half.
Yeah, 5.5.
Wow. And I just want to spend this episode kind of sharing, how we ended up here, why we ended up here, what transitioning here was like integrating into the culture, the ups, the downs, the challenges, the, travel perks around it.
Trials and tribulations.
But we also spent the pandemic here. So I feel like that also is a story in itself. So I don't know if we're going to get through everything today or not. Maybe we need a part 2, but we're going to try our best. We're going to try our best to get through some things.
Let's do it.
But since you are my first guest, I want to set a little bit of a ritual for when I have guests on. I want to ask 2 questions.
2 of them.
And just so that people get to know you,
what kind of
understand
questions?
You a little bit.
Nothing better than your wife asking you 2 random questions about life before her.
Who was she? No. But in all seriousness, this is a very, very important question. The masses need to know.
All right.
What is your sun sign?
My sun sign?
Your astrological sign.
Astrology. Well, I should let everyone guess at the end just to see. I don't want to be put into that box, but yeah.
All my woo-woo girlies are like, I already know based on that answer.
maybe I ratted myself out, but no, I'm a Virgo sun, September Virgo.
A Virgo.
Shout out to all the Virgos out there that are listening.
You're silly. Okay, obviously I knew the answer to that, but I feel like it'll be nice for people who do like astrology to kind of match that sign to your personality as they get to know you on this episode. Because you're going to be divulging some like vulnerable information. This is a good topic.
Yeah.
But I do love me my Virgos. Clearly, obviously, I married one. But we're all about the earthiness. We want that groundedness, and I feel like you keep it that way. You have a quintessential Virgo energy to you for sure.
Yeah, I'll take that.
It's good.
Sounds good to me, yeah.
Okay, second question is, where is the place you traveled to that made you fall in love with traveling?
Oh, I will say I've been pretty fortunate. I think, more so in my late teens, kind of early 20s that I started doing a lot of traveling. So now I'm trying to think about why. Wow, this does get deep. Well, I will say I'm relieved at the questions. I was afraid of what the questions were going to go, but I think, this, I don't know if this is controversial or not, but I will say, I think that the trip for me was when I went to Russia with my family. My uncle took me and his family to Russia for high school graduation. So I was like 17 and a half. And it was the first place that, we'll probably get into like all of our backgrounds and stuff later in the podcast, but it was the first place that I went to where I didn't understand the alphabet. I couldn't understand what, even pronounce what I was seeing on the street, whether it was signs or street signs or like ads. And I thought like, wow, this is crazy. There's an entire alphabet. Different languages, stuff like that, they exist. But when you see it and you're living in it and you're surrounded by it for that 2 weeks that you're there, it's like, wow.
I feel like especially as a teenager, because as a teenager, you're so just absorbed in your world of high school and the people around you, and like the only thing you know bigger than that is like your family and where they're from. So like as far past as Sayreville, New Jersey, I feel like it was like Portugal for you,
Yeah, like
essentially.
Portugal and Spain.
Yeah.
And we had been to the Caribbean like once or twice, I think, by that time. But
Yeah.
I mean, with the all inclusives and stuff like that, you kind of feel like you're
No,
not.
it's touristy.
It's not
It's the
traveling.
same. Yeah.
Yeah,
It's
yeah. It's
just
just vacation.
vacation.
It's just like relax,
Yeah.
unplug. You're surrounded by a bunch of Americans, so it's like you almost feel like you're in Florida. So
No, I guess
you
so.
don't get
It's
to see
true.
the beauty of that country when you stay on the resorts for those like 4 or 5 days. So yeah, I would say Russia at 17. Beautiful country. I always said I want to go back, and I just never been able to make it there. But I think in the future, yeah, for sure. I think that's what
Yeah, I
started it.
eventually want to go. So we
And also thank
definitely.
you to my uncle who brought me there.
Oh my
So
God. First shout out.
yeah, I see you, Pedrinho.
Okay, I really, really loved that answer. And that's
Oh,
really cool
thanks.
that you were
No.
able to go to such, I don't know, just a drastic difference of a place at such a young age, because a lot of people don't get to experience that. Okay, so I feel like we should open with just the general story. Like why how did we end up here? Why we ended up here? Before we lived here, we were living in Jersey City. We were both working in Manhattan. You were working for Credit Suisse. I was working at Fortress. And I feel like life was completely different back then. It was so much fun. But don't think either of us, when we got married in September 2018, that we would anticipate that like 8 months later we would be living in Zurich. Like that opportunity wasn't anywhere near in sight at the
Yeah.
time of us being married and our life in Jersey City. I feel like we were looking for a new apartment in Jersey City. Like we kind of knew like the life plan that was going to be happening there.
The
So
context is important, I think,
yeah.
even before you get here, because like you said, we were going down this plan where it's like, hey, we're getting married now. We were living in the condo that I was owning, and
Mhm.
I'm co-owning with my brother. Shout out to Mike if you're listening.
He loves a shout out. Oh my god.
Got to put the whole team on. So we were owning this condo, and we were getting married. We are about to sell the condo.
Yeah.
You were getting ready for your own career change. Like you wanted out of
Yeah, I
what
wanted
I'll
out of
call like,
Fortress.
yeah, like
Yeah, I
a
wanted to change
financial
into
services type of
yeah.
accounting space,
Mhm.
going into designer kind
Yeah,
of
I wanted to go
luxury,
into luxury brands. Yeah.
still kind of in the accounting space. So there were so many pivotal things that were happening where it's like that
Yeah.
we knew that moment that so many decisions were being made, where it was to live, where it was to work. Um, and that's when I won't forget, we got the phone call when I was at my other brother's bachelor party
Shout
in
out Joe.
in Texas. Not the phone call I was expecting to receive hungover.
No. And
Maybe
I
even
was
still
at the
drunk. I don't even
bachelorette
know.
party. I was at Allie's bachelorette party and you
Yeah,
called me
shout
right
out to
after.
Allie.
We were both very hungover.
Yeah, we're both at the reciprocal bachelorette parties in different states. And I'm like, babe, we have to talk. I just got this crazy phone call from Zurich
Yeah.
because I was working for the Swiss bank at the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, the context is really what kind of set everything up for us.
No, it's true. And we both definitely had, like, when we initially met each other, I feel like already had such a love for traveling. So once it came on our radar that this was a possibility, I think both of us, like, our eyes like lit up. It was like a juicy golden carrot opportunity, and I think we both knew the answer to be like, yes, let's do it. But the situation wasn't presented as a long-term situation. Like your
Correct. Yeah.
boss wanted you to come over for just like 8 or 9 months to help out
Was a bit of a
with
bargain, right? So
yeah.
the real story was they asked for me to come for a year to help out.
Oh, I forgot
But
about that.
our plan was, no, because we wanted to live in the downtown Jersey City for a bit and then move to the suburbs like a year or two after that because we
Yeah.
wanted to start getting into the family mode.
Yeah.
So we're like, no, what about 6 months? Right. And then he's like, no, what about 9 months? So we ended up settling on 9 months as like kind of splitting the difference.
Okay, yeah.
Um, because
So,
we did have that plan that you talked about. And we thought, okay, yeah, we'll go for 9 months. We'll come back.
yeah.
We'll do the 1 year thing in Jersey City that we originally wanted to do.
I also felt like 9 months was enough time for me to explain on my resume like a gap like that, because I knew coming over here I wasn't going to find a job just for 9 months. Like I was going to just essentially take off this type of opportunity, expenses were covered, housing expenses were covered. So we were just like let's do this. Let's milk it from a travel perspective. Like, let's travel every weekend. Let's just see what it's like to be living in the middle of Europe and like have all these countries and places at our fingertips.
It's almost like study abroad.
It
It was
was.
almost
It
like
was like an
study abroad
older
for adults.
version,
Yeah.
yeah, but like with a
For like real adults. Yeah.
with a salary, which
Yeah.
was so nice. Like, but I liked that it gave us enough notice. So you got that call in February. We didn't move until July 1. So I had a few months to kind of figure out when I wanted to quit, to save up some money and get everything into storage, all that kind of, because there's just so much admin that goes into coming over here, especially for what we thought was going to be a really short period of time. Like, we needed a storage unit. We wanted to make sure that we had everything essentially ready for right when we got back 9 months
Yeah. I
later.
mean, imagine we had to put our lives on pause
Yeah,
in a space that we could come back to in nine
exactly.
months. What we thought was 9 months.
I feel like when we got over here, we were, I mean, I'm not going to go into every single detail. Essentially, that is what got us over here, but we were gallivanting and we were traveling every single weekend.
Literally every single weekend.
We
Like
were always at the airport. We had a blast. Summer 2019, we always
my
say.
coworkers used to call at that time. My coworkers used to call them Brian Fridays because
Every Friday you
around
would leave
one
a little
thirty, two
early.
o'clock. Now, mind you, you make up for that time right during the week, but like around 1:30, 2 o'clock. Hey, I think
Yeah.
it's time to head to the airport.
Yep,
Time to
exactly.
catch a flight, and then Sunday night we'd be back. So it was crazy. What a fun time.
No, I like we were in Sardinia and I remember being on the boat with you and we both looked at each other and we're like, this is, we in the moment knew this is the best summer. Like, we are having a time. Like, this is a really like blessed, lucky, amazing opportunity and we were milking it. We knew we were milking it. It's like we knew like this
Yep.
couldn't last forever, like how good it was. And we just had so much fun with it.
My first time driving a boat. Can you say
Yeah.
driving? Do you drive a boat? Yeah,
Yeah,
right.
you drive it. Yeah,
All right, cool.
exactly. So we were in love with it. We had so many friends and family come and visit us and like just capitalize on our like where we were. People who wanted to see the Alps, people who hadn't been to Switzerland yet. I mean, your brothers, my cousin, tons of friends came. Ton of your family came. Your parents,
Yeah.
and once January 2020 rolled around, it had been like 6.5 months since we had moved. And I think both of us knew that March was nearing and that we were going to be moving back to the States. And we both had this feeling of this chapter is not over yet. I think we started falling in
I
love
think
with
we just didn't want
just,
it to be over,
we
even
didn't
if it
want it to
was.
be over. We wanted to keep traveling, but we also liked the quality of life that we were experiencing.
Yeah.
Like, Zurich is a small city, and going from Manhattan to a small city, we thought we would be so bored of it so quickly. Like, we thought 9 months would be perfect, milk it, leave it behind. But there is something about the European quality of life. You were able to like walk to work. Like, walking to work was like a 25-minute walk from where we were living back
Yeah.
then. And just the labor rules around here are like, you have to leave your desk for lunch, which if anyone who lives in Manhattan and works in corporate knows, it's like essentially frowned upon to do to leave your desk for lunch.
At least, yeah, at least at the time that we were there,
At least the time that we were there.
where when
Yeah.
we
I mean,
left.
times have 100% changed, but yes, exactly. So we were kind of just feeling this, wow, it's like really nice. My dad at the time was like in remission. So we were like, maybe we should extend it. Maybe we can stay longer. Maybe we should be here indefinitely and we'll figure it out.
And there was a career angle to that too, because I was also like, well, what if I do stay here? My career was in New York, so what is in it for me professionally
Yeah.
and for you as well? Because at that time you legally could not work here; your visa didn't allow that.
Yeah.
But
Mm-hmm.
does it make sense to be here for your career too?
Yeah.
So there's a lot. It was a very like heavy decision when they approached me about it
Yeah.
around the September timeframe. We had talked about it for weeks, I think, and really debated like pros and
Weeks
cons
are
because we
cons.
had our plan, we had the careers that we were looking for, and
Yep.
then all these good things that you just mentioned about the quality of life phrase that I really hate to say, but
It's
it's the
so
easiest way
true.
to describe it.
It's so true. It absolutely is.
It's just like it really threw us for a loop. We really had to sit back and think about it. It wasn't an easy decision.
No, I think there was
Um,
even like conversations we would have about it, like where I would be crying because essentially everything that was here that was so exciting and attractive, the only thing it lacked ever was our friends and family. And
yeah,
that's
the people.
and
Our
Yeah,
people.
our people. And I mean, though our people, I love them dearly because they're the ones who like genuinely like have visited and have really just stayed in touch and done the just amazing thing of being able to have like oversee relationships that continue to flourish. But it was hard. It was hard to wager all of that.
Yeah.
It was hard to think about, well, what does life bring us next if we don't do what we had planned to do? And I think that was the first time we really truly saw that even if you have a plan, like the universe, God, whoever you believe in, is like, that's so cute.
I
I got this
know.
other little plan for you, though. Here's this other little opportunity.
But we thought about it. We were like, what if, and this is what I know, this is not like a couples podcast, like therapy type session. But what I do like is that when we come to these, what I'll call crossroads, we're always like, what about 3 years from now? What about 5 years from now? And even at that time, this
Hmm.
was, 5 years ago, we're talking, we're like, what if we have kids? What are
Yeah.
we going to do with kids here by
Yeah.
ourselves? Like, and the same thing, um, even before we even moved in together,
Yeah.
we're like, where is this relationship going? Do
Yeah.
we see marriage? Do we see kids? What if we can't have kids? Like, so I will say that, making these decisions, while maybe from the outside, maybe from social media, it looks really easy. It's not.
No,
And
not
I
at
think
all.
the more thorough that you can think through them with your partner, or if it's just yourself and your network, like your social network and your community,
Hmm.
really think through that short, mid, long term, because you really got to be comfortable with these decisions, and they really impact the total course of your life. So I gotta say, reflecting on it, I think it may have seemed at the time that we were overdoing it, overthinking it, what might be like an easy option or easy decision for somebody from the outside. But I'm so happy we thought through it. I'm so happy we like use our family and friends as sounding boards, and
And
so
I
you can
will
join
say a
when.
lot of people were supportive. They were like, if not now, then when? Like, so
um,
just do it, just milk it. You can always come back. I think that's what we always came back to was we can always go back home. We can always just move back. And not easily. Obviously, it takes, a lot of lining things up, but it's not like, oh, we're deciding on Switzerland and then like we're never going back. Like, no, if things hit the fan, we could move back.
And I agree with you. And I think I just want to highlight that because I think that's a really key takeaway for anything, even beyond moving countries.
Yeah.
I mean, moving cities, moving high schools, moving towns, it's like, just in the worst case, you can always go back. And in the best case, you can see something totally new, totally different, and change who you are, hopefully for the better. But I hope that that thought process helps people when they think about what risks they want to take in life, healthy risks.
No, I totally agree. So we
July
just
1.
no, no, we decided to stay. Essentially, was the end result of all of our conver. Clearly, we're still here, but I feel like we laugh about it now because it has been 5.5 years, and we're like, damn, I can't believe we were only supposed to be here for 9 months, and now look at us. We have lived in 3 different apartments. We have a dog. We have a kid. We have another kid on the way. Like we feel.
We've spent more
We,
time together in Switzerland than in America in our relationship, which is crazy.
as of now, yeah, that's crazy. That's weird. It's so weird. It's so weird to think that. I not you. If you asked me this 6 years ago, I wouldn't have thought in a million years that
No.
this would have been the case. All right, I want to move on because we have so much to cover, and I love how we're deep diving about things. But there were elements to our move other than just the decision making that weren't easy. So I kind of want to talk about the culture shocks. I love thinking about the very first day that we moved because when we moved in, it was like 90
Oh,
degrees. I think this was my first culture shock where I like could not effing believe like
yeah.
that this was like the reality that we were going to be in. It was July 1st, 90 degrees out, and we show up to our apartment. And the apartments here on the windows, there's these shutters. And when you're looking from the outside, you're like, damn, these look a little
They look hood.
flaky. They look
Yeah, they
they look
look
a little
ghetto.
ghetto. I'm like, what are we even like?
Very old, like from the 70s. We were
Yeah.
also in like an older neighborhood of Zurich, like a
Yeah, like
nicer,
that.
like
Like the older
quiet.
meaning like a take on what I would compare to like the Upper East Side. Like the architecture is a little older.
Yeah,
Like it's charming,
it's quaint.
but we weren't used to this shutter value. And we're like, why is everyone's shutters closed? Like, is anyone home? Like, what
It's
is
like 12
going
o'clock.
on? Yeah,
Wake up.
exactly. Exactly.
Open up.
So we get into our apartment and all the shutters are closed in our apartment. So we just start opening them up. I want like the windows open. I want air. Like I was like, I'm somebody who loves natural light. I'm like, okay, I'll open everything.
Oh, because there was no air conditioning,
No, I know. I'm getting
which
to
is
that.
why.
I'm getting to that. And here we go. As
Yes.
soon as I open up all the windows, I realize why the shutters were shut. And it was because there is an art to the Swiss way of living because they
Mhm.
don't have air conditioning, as Brian has disclosed oh so excitedly. I
Well, I'm
was
thinking
getting to
everyone's probably
that.
thinking like, okay, it's July, it's 90
No,
degrees. Why didn't you just turn on the
exactly. I was
AC?
getting to this. Is a build up, baby.
Screw the
It's
windows.
storytelling. It's
This is
storytelling.
survival mode. We
It's
should be.
storytelling. But we open the windows and we're like, holy shit, it's like 90 degrees out. And now the whole apartment's flooding with like all of this hot temperature.
I think it was hotter in
So
the
now we're
apartment.
looking like for the wall, like where's the air condition? Like, we're looking for like the central air like unit with the buttons. We're like, where's the air? Like, is there no air conditioning? We're like, okay, let's look in the closets for a fan. Like, there's no fan. And we're like, wait, what the hell are we supposed to do? Like,
Yeah.
how? So we're like, okay,
And I sweat
culture
easy.
shock number
And I
one.
sweat
Oh my
easy.
god, and so do I.
For all my easy sweaters out there.
Absolutely, yeah, so do I, and I have zero wants to be. I love the heat, but I don't want to like live in the
Yeah,
heat
when you're in a
inside
bathing
my
suit.
apartment.
I
Yeah,
love the heat when I'm at
and
the
our
beach.
apartment was so great because it had so much natural light, but that meant we got like the sun all day beaming into our apartment, and it just cooked. So
And everything is wood. Everything heats up fast. It retains heat. And you're just like, wow,
yes,
this
exactly.
apartment must be 10 degrees hotter than what it is outside.
It
We probably could have
definitely.
cooked an egg on the floor.
No, literally, it was so hot,
Honestly.
and we also I feel like after we realized there was no air conditioning, no fans, we learned quickly that the reason why the shutters were closed is because the Swiss like to keep the shutters closed while the sun is out. Like they'll open them up in the morning for the fresh air and let the fresh, cool air in. And then as soon as the sun comes beaming in, they close the shutters to kind of lock that fresh air in the house and not let the apartments heat up.
Yeah, keep the sun out.
I think that took us like probably 2 weeks to really like nail down that art and it still wasn't perfect, but we trucked our way over. So that was culture shock number 1 was zero air conditioning.
Mm-hmm.
Culture shock number 2, we went over to a store that kind of reminds me of like their version of, I don't know, Target, I guess. What's Cope City? What would
Like
you
Macy's. Like
Not
Macy's type.
Macy's because it has like food.
Oh, the supermarket. Yeah. There's a supermarket in the basement.
It's not. Yeah, it's like a department store and a food store. It's
All I
interesting.
can think of is El Corte Inglés in Spain and Portugal.
Well, for all of you who know
Like a
that, then you'll
hypermarket,
know.
like
Yeah, exactly. Like
Carrefour, those kinds of European hypermarkets. Yeah.
and we get there, we're like, all right, let's pick up a fan, and we go to pick up like the biggest fan. We're like, this is like $300. This is crazy. So we're like looking at all the prices, and like the cheapest fan is
Second culture shock.
one of those desk fans, like just the ones like with the weird wired netting around it, and
The ones that when you're a kid, you're like screaming to them like,
yeah,
and it's like, go.
exactly. And that itself was 70 francs. So culture shock number 2
Which
was
is like
the
more,
pricing on shit. We
yeah,
were like 70 francs for this would easily be 15 $20
this
in
plastic
Target. Yeah, like
piece of junk.
it was ridiculous. But let me tell you something. I think we may still have that fan in our basement. Like I refuse to throw it out. Oh no, we don't.
We don't.
Zaya chewed through the wire.
Somebody was babysitting our dog
Oh,
and she chewed through that wire.
that's right.
We
But I
struggled.
feel
We
like
struggled that summer.
we had it for a while
Yeah, that was like
because
2 years
we
later.
were like, we're never throwing this expensive fan out.
I
We are
could
going to
never.
use it. We're going to clean it. Just hilarious.
We have an umbrella that we bought the same year that was like $70. And I'm like, I'm never losing this umbrella. We still have it. It's been 4.5 years.
That's like the sacred umbrella. It's like you don't leave it behind.
Yep.
You need to make sure we still have it. Don't ever let anyone borrow it.
It's
Like,
true.
yeah, that was like months later that you bought this $80 umbrella during a
Yeah.
torrential downpour.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I think sticker shock, air conditioning, that was shock immediately. I have a little list of the shocks that
I was shocked at how small Zurich was.
okay.
Like driving from the airport to our apartment, which was like kind of like in the downtown, like near the lake, was like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
We were like, wait a second. So Laura and I, we didn't do any research on Zurich. We had never been here
Never
before.
been, yeah.
And we kind of liked it that way. We're like, oh, we'll have 9 months. Let's just explore. Let's just figure it out as we're there.
Yeah.
And I think we found it was really small compared to, Jersey City, New York, and everything was close by, including the airport, which made Brian weekends more fun
Yes,
when we would go. It's
exactly.
like, hey, it's like right there, 10, 15 minutes on the train. Good.
The
So yeah,
infrastructure here was also a nice shock because it is so timely and perfect and just well
dependable.
produced, dependable. I
Yeah.
mean, not even from just in the city, but throughout the entire country. Like you can get anywhere by train, and the trains are like clean and they're well maintained and
Pretty quiet.
they're
Like people are
quiet.
pretty respectful of the
Yeah.
noise in the train.
Exactly. They're very respectful. But that's also another thing is another culture shock is the quiet hours here. They have a very strict rule around after 10 p.m. It's like you can't be too loud,
Mm-hmm.
which for us New Jersey, New Yorker, that's just in our blood. That felt so weird. I mean, obviously, if there's clubs and restaurants and, if you're out, you're out, but like meaning at home, right?
Yeah.
You can't be like disturbing the peace and disturbing your neighbors. I think that was another culture shock.
Because people here, which is another culture shock, will call the cops immediately. Whereas maybe in the US, or at least in the New York area, you might be like, oh, you know what? Let me talk to them. Let me knock on their door
Yeah,
and be
let me
like,
knock
hey,
on my
can you
neighbor's
guys turn it down a
door.
bit? I can hear you upstairs or whatever.
Yeah.
Here it's like, no, no, no. We're going to cut the middleman.
Yep.
We're going to send the police.
It's true.
Police are going to deal with it.
Yep.
They'll give you the warning, whatever. And
Mm-hmm.
then, you know, it's on you. So I respect it in a way, but it definitely puts a barrier if you want to become close to your neighbors that they won't actually talk to you about conflict and conflict resolution first. It
Yeah.
definitely puts kind of like I think, a wall
I think if
for
you're in
proximity.
an expat building, a very expat heavy building, there's a little bit more leniency and understanding, I think, because we're all coming from different backgrounds. But yeah, I mean, in order to integrate truly to the Swiss way, you have to be respectful of that.
10
I
to 7
mean, they were
a.m.
even strict about it during the pandemic.
Yeah.
I feel like we
You want to
had
tell them that?
yeah,
You
I'm
want
down.
to tell the people
I'm
this?
down to tell the story. I mean, do you want to share the
No,
story?
I want to hear how you say it
Okay,
first.
fine.
I'll just add the dramatic flair.
Please do as business as usual. So during the pandemic, I think it was Cinco de Mayo. We
Mm-hmm.
were practicing social distancing. We hadn't hung out with anybody.
You know what it was? It was May 1st. It was the holiday here.
Oh, it was May 1. It
Our
was
friend's
the
birthday is on Cinco de Mayo, and we said no to his birthday
Okay, that's right.
festival, but we stayed home.
Okay,
May
so
2020,
we in our
heart of
practice of
lockdown.
social, yeah, heart
Heart
of
of lockdown.
lockdown,
You
like
can't have like more than whatever 3 people at your house.
life, yeah, life was, but I don't even think could you even have anybody at your house? I don't think, like, if
It
social
wasn't there yet.
distancing, it was like, yeah, we were at the point where no one, like, if
2 months into lockdown.
maybe outside could hang out with people, like, you couldn't have people over. It was very strict.
Yeah.
We were in the height of this quarantine. We're enjoying our Friday nights thoroughly and just drinking and FaceTiming with people. And
Do you
we
remember that when
had,
you like FaceTime games and stuff, like
yeah,
quizzes and everything?
exactly. Yeah. Like we
What a
depended
crazy time. That
on,
was such a long time ago. Wow.
think about doing that without the technology. It would have just
Wow.
been me and you. I don't know how we would have done
Divorce.
it. I don't know.
Sayonara. Auf
Um,
Wiedersehen.
but we were drinking. We got to the point where we got like buzzed. We were getting drunk, and I wanted to hear beats. I wanted like to be in the club. So we like turned the lights off in the
And it
living
was Friday
room.
night.
We tried to like do
It
like
was a
the
Friday.
strobe setting on our phones. Like I feel like the strobe light, it's like we were trying to set up our own little like dance party.
Mm-hmm.
You have videos of me like, frolicking and shit. And all of a sudden we hear a knock on the door of our apartment, and we're like, "Well, who the fuck is that?" And then
It
we're
was the
sweating
police.
from like we were, no, I
Oh.
want to tell you, we were sweating. We were sweating as if we were like raging at Pasha back in 2010. I feel
Yeah.
like we were just,
Like
it was
old
fun.
times.
Exactly. It was like old times.
Like old times.
And two cops at our door, and they were like,
Who's in there?
yeah, do you have
How many
people
people?
over? How many people do you have over? And Brian's like, it's just me and my wife.
And it
And
was like,
like,
wait, it was like pitch black. Like all the lights were off and like it was noisy. And then all of a sudden it's completely quiet.
yeah.
And they're like, who's in there? How many people are in there?
And you see me like creep out sweating, like probably like mascara running, and they were like, it's just the two of you, and we're like, yeah, it's just us. And they're like, can we have your ID? Because they were gonna give us like a warning, like a thing warning. And Brian's like, I don't have ID. And you were just
I was
really
being so
good.
American about it,
You
though.
were just being really good about like,
It probably wasn't nice.
it wasn't nice, but it also was like,
I knew we
it's
were
the
fine.
pandemic and it was just the two of us. They could have come into
Yeah.
our apartment and seen, like, we were
Yeah.
not breaking
We had nothing
any
to hide
rules
at all.
other than being a little noisy.
It was 10:30 p.m., by the way. The
It was like
context
10,
was
yes,
it
yes. It
was
wasn't like it was
10:30
midnight.
p.m. on a
Yeah.
Friday, which was also a holiday.
Yes.
So all those signs lead you to believe this should be a fun night. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Or like
It's a pandemic.
be a little lenient. Like people are just trying to have a good time in
Yeah.
their apartment.
Also, Mrs. Officer, 6 feet back, please. 2 meters. Like,
I
why are you all up in my
know.
grill?
So true.
Distance, please. Where's your mask?
Anyway, long
Very not
story
considerate.
short, I came out with my ID. I was like, I have my passport here. And I gave it to them. And then he's like, well, then you're going to get the warning. I'm like, that's fine. I don't care. Like, they gave us a warning and they were on their
Wait, do you remember
way.
that? Because that first officer, the guy was like, "Oh, I don't speak English," so he had his like the woman officer come and said,
Yeah.
and then as soon as you came flying with your ID, he all of a sudden could speak English and was like, "No, because then you get the ticket if we have to come back." And it's like, okay, we're married. Like that's
I'm
another
like,
cultural thing where it's like,
yeah.
the real
Everything's very
traditional.
separate. Yeah. Everything's very separate.
Yeah, you have a partner, you don't have a wife or husband. Everything is separate. My problems are my problems. Her problems are her problems.
Yeah.
But
Everything is very separate.
yeah, we're a very modern couple. So if
But
you
yeah,
go to
that
jail, I'm going
was
to jail too. This is how we are. That's how we operate.
it's
If
very
you go
true.
down,
We're
I
ride
go
or
down.
dying. We're ride or dying, and maybe this was don't get that, but I think that was our first time realizing, okay, the quiet hours are like serious. And it took
Yeah,
us into the pandemic to, I mean, shortly after we decided to stay here indefinitely, it was like February when we fully decided, or January. And clearly COVID happened like
yeah,
weeks later. So we went right into lockdown, and just having that experience, it was our first time getting in trouble, which is fine, whatever. Other culture shocks, how clean the water is. We
hmm
drink straight from the tap here. When we first moved here, we were always buying bottled water as if, like we're used to like buying Poland Spring and Smart Water and whatever, like back at home. But tap water is like the thing to drink here. Like all the water is fresh. If we ever move from here, that'll be something that I miss so much. Just having that like trusted source of water right from the tap, and
yeah.
it tastes equally, if not better, than bottled water in the States. It's so amazing. What else? There's like other little things like private health insurance costs are really, really high. There is really strict garbage and recycling laws, which honestly, when it
Yeah.
comes to like helping the planet and being more conscious about being greener, I love it. But initially, yeah, it was a little annoying to conform and like figure it all out, because they easily find you. They will go through your garbage here. They will find who
Do you want to
didn't.
give an example? Do you want to give an
Just,
example of?
I can't believe the level of culture shocks.
Wait, we have to tell them before we move on.
Okay, fine. Okay, you could tell this story.
So at that time, we were moving into from the temporary housing that the company was paying for to our own real apartment when we fully moved. And at that time, it was a service apartment, so they had a cleaning company that would take our trash, they would dust our apartment, and we never had to deal with trash and recycling because they took care of it.
Yeah.
And then months after we moved, like 6 months or 7 months, we got a ticket in the mail saying that we used the wrong garbage bag to throw out our trash. They went through it and they found several articles of mail with her name on it.
Yeah.
So basically, this
Which felt
letter,
like a setup.
I, honestly, no pictures, just text of what they found,
I think he
describing
was
what they
trying to get
found
rid of me.
from the
Send
police,
help.
from the canton, the state police, and basically saying, "This is why we think it was you, and if it wasn't you, tell us who it was."
They give
Or
you the ability to rat somebody else out. They're like, "Oh, if it wasn't you, like
that
then tell
ratting
us who it
culture, you
was."
don't find that in Jersey,
Yeah, you
but
don't find.
the rat themselves, if not you,
Hell
then
no.
who? If not you, then who? That you won't find that.
You no, people would protest that you're a rat. Like literally, like you ratted me out. No. Mm-mm.
You rat bastard.
Yeah, you rat bastard.
So yeah, so it was either was it you or and if not whom, and then if it was you, either pay this 450 franc bill or go to jail for 2 days. And Laura almost went to jail for 2 days
I
out of
contemplated it.
principle.
I contemplated it. I was like, I don't want to pay this. Like, what's jail in 2 days look
Yeah.
like?
So my boss at the time, I miss him. He's a different company, but he wrote a letter in German to the police to basically explain, hey, we don't even take our own trash out. This is from our old apartment where it was serviced. There's a private company. Talk to them.
Yeah.
Like they handle the trash, not it
Yeah.
wasn't private. And the police came back and were like, we don't care. So either again, 450 or jail.
So
And yeah,
we paid the price.
so
And ever since then, let me tell you, we have not let one piece of information with our, like a piece of paper with our address on it, into our trash regardless.
honestly, even if everything is perfect, we just don't even want our names on it.
Yeah, I'm like, they could come up
And
with a new
locals do
law that
this.
I don't know about
This is a local
because
secret.
yeah.
All the locals will take anything with their name on it to work, to shred,
Yeah, yeah.
or some other shredding center. And
Oh, definitely.
I will say, I love the Swiss loopholes.
Yeah, yeah.
For there's just as many loopholes, if not more, per rule here. You just got to find them. You got to connect with locals and see what do they do. How do they get around
Yeah.
these little things? Because not everyone's not everyone's perfect.
No, no. And I think a lot of expats bump into the same things that we have.
Yeah,
And it just shows like the culture here, the difference between, I think, American, or I'll speak for New Jersey culture versus Zurich culture, is that I think here it's more, how would you call it? Like, you have to know the rules in order to integrate. It's not like in Jersey where you can just break the rules and just ask for forgiveness
yeah,
after. Like, they're not forgiving here. They're like, no, you should have known the rules. Just because you didn't want to read about the rules, like, because they also provide at all the town halls like a welcome to Zurich integration expat class for like 2 or 3 weeks or something like that. Like, you have like the resources to be able to know exactly how to abide by things here. So, but it's perspective. It's a trade off. There's pros and cons to everything.
you get used to it after the first 6 months of receiving bill in the mail after bill after
Yeah.
ticket after
You're like,
fine
okay,
after. You're just like, all
let
right.
me read this
When
rule
you I
book.
will say one of the most exciting things living here is when you open your mailbox and it's empty.
Oh my
Like
God. Yeah, I
the
know. It's
the
so
way
true.
that anxiety of you turning the key in the mailbox, like not knowing if it's full or not.
You're like, please don't let there be some
Honestly.
random ass bill. I can't handle it anymore.
But the positives definitely outweigh the bad stuff.
It really is just trade-offs.
Yeah.
It's insane because I feel like,
It's like, oh, you don't want to trash the right way, but then, the city is completely clean and the trains are completely clean and everyone respects the common
yeah.
ground. So it's like, you know what? Yeah, it's annoying. Yeah, I mean, I have actually done that, but how can I tell you? I already explained my story. You don't care. But then you get the benefit of, the niceness and the ease of everything. And you're like, okay. So you start to get it.
Yeah, they have their ways, and it works. It
Yeah.
works for them here, and I think we've enjoyed capitalizing on it and being integrating as much as we can
Yeah.
into it.
I just want to say that that doesn't mean that the way things were in your home country or hometown were good. you know
Fair. It's like
like we
just what
should
you're
be better at
used to.
recycling. We should be better at like sifting through our
Yes,
refuse and just making sure we're handling it the right way.
I agree
It's
with
just that
that.
annoying learning curve when you're not used to it. But I do think I will say even the negative stuff, it probably reflects something that wasn't so good or done so well where you're coming from. And when
Exactly.
you go back, you see that, you see when the Jersey Transit trains are not pristine clean and they're not on time. And you're like, okay, yeah, my train tickets are double the price, but they're on time, they're clean,
Yeah,
and I have a good experience. So
exactly.
just
It's
because things are
reliable.
expensive or there's fines, I think, it
I
doesn't
agree
mean
with
that
that.
wherever you're coming from was doing it perfect or well to begin with.
No, I agree with that. And I also think it's just a matter of like change. Like, we were going from first world country to first world country. I think it's so much different when like someone who's like immigrating to the States from a third or second world country, like they're so eager to conform and to learn the rules, where I feel like we're coming from like a privileged society and coming to another privileged society where we're like, wait, why are all these rules
Yeah.
here? Like,
It doesn't have to be this way.
exactly,
It
like
can
land
be
of the
free.
free. It's
It can be free.
no, it's true. It's perspective, and yeah, I totally agree with you on that. It doesn't mean it's necessarily negative. It's just the change. It's just it's yeah, exactly. And depending on how much you resist that change is will be telling of, if this new city or place is good for you or not, or it makes sense for you or not. And I think
We have people
there's
that they just can't come to that. They can't come to terms with it, and they go back, and that's fine.
exactly.
You
It
know.
absolutely. And I understand why as well, because I give those people credit for even trying it on for size
Yeah.
and putting themselves out of their comfort zone and saying, you know what, I actually liked it the way it was before. And
Yeah.
that's, I can empathize with that. Like there are so many things that I miss about New York. I mean, outside of my friends and family, like just the energy about it, the differences. But it, yeah, it does come with like the smell and the
Hmm.
crazy and the garbage and all of that. But for some reason, that to my New Jersey, New York soul, that also feels charming and amazing to me. Like
Yeah.
that feels like home. The next thing I wanted to discuss is the travel perks of living here,
Mm.
because that was definitely the initial, I'll call it the glamour of it all. We love traveling so much. It was the basis of the appeal of coming over here for 9 months. And I feel like Switzerland being smack dab in the middle of like Europe, essentially, or the main part of Europe, like mainstream
Mm.
part of Europe, it just gave us the experience to even capitalize traveling on the weekends, just on the weekends, and being able to go somewhere like 1 hour flight to Nice, or a 1 hour flight to Rome, or a 1 hour flight to Copenhagen. You could go anywhere on like a 1 to 2 hour flight from here and have an entirely different culture, an entirely different cuisine, experience, people. I mean,
Climate.
climate,
Everything.
yeah, geography, like just the landscape, everything. Absolutely love being in the middle of it all here.
Like on the map, you kind of see, oh, it's like this tiny country. It looks like it's relatively, I would say, west, but actually, it is super central. Like you said, within 3 hours, you can be in Turkey or Portugal or Tunisia or Egypt. It's like,
Yeah,
wow,
yeah.
you can really, within those 3 or 4 hours, change everything and just get a whole new perspective. And even if you don't want to leave, there's so much to see here. And I think that's part of the reason why we made the decision to stay, was because we thought, you know what, we spent all our weekends going somewhere else, and now we haven't really seen Switzerland as
Yeah,
well. So let's see a little bit more of Switzerland, and still
yeah.
getting the travel outside of Switzerland that we want. But there's so much here to offer, just to see and to experience in every season, that you don't even have to leave. And that's why lockdown was actually quite fun. I mean, of course, not like the bad stuff, but like the silver lining of it was we could still go to the mountains. We could still, the EU, like, Switzerland is not part of the EU, but it has a lot of agreements with the EU. And we were able to travel to EU countries, of course, as long as you were vaccinated or like had the COVID tests.
I mean, that's a whole nother topic
Yeah.
with the pandemic and stuff, because we really did have such a different experience being here during COVID than we would have had if we were still living in Jersey.
Yeah, no, I agree.
100%. And
I
I want
agree.
to get into that, but like separately, but I totally agree with you. It was the placement of Switzerland allowed us to, regardless to what was going on, you know, in the world or wherever, like it allowed us to not feel completely barricaded,
Yeah.
even though we're in the middle of it.
It's small but powerful. And yeah, so
No,
much
I
to see.
know. And also because it does have all those agreements with the EU, like traveling on the weekend is so easy because even though you're going to another country, it's essentially a domestic flight. Like you're not going through customs. The unfortunate part of that is that you don't get your passport stamped, but it made being at the airport seamless, traveling
Yeah.
seamless,
No
coming in and
check bags,
out, no
just
check.
carry-ons, and
Yeah, that was carry on life then for sure.
so good.
What do you think is the best place, or what are some of the best trips or places that we've been to since we moved here for you?
Since moving here,
Yeah.
I'm like picturing the map in my head. Like, what does the world look like?
Hmm.
Um, wow, and for so many different reasons, right? It's like,
I know, because we've had a lot of different trips. I
yeah.
think moving here also, I learned an appreciation for traveling to colder climates
Yeah.
that I didn't have when I was living in the States. I found that because we had such a hefty winter season, I was always wanting the beach. I was always wanting the Caribbean. I was always wanting something warm. And even in the summer, I wanted Europe, and Europe was warm. And here was the first time where I was like, oh, like indulging in the Alps and like the chalet life and the snow and, going to places like Finland and Norway and just enjoying a trip where we get to bundle up or stay in a cabin and have the fireplace on. Like I have an appreciation for that in general in life, but to go and seek it out with traveling, I think it took us moving here for me to get that
No, I
experience.
get it. And I think these like countries, that's their bread and butter. That's their culture, right? They make the most out of the climate and the geography. And, you compare that to like the middle of New Jersey in January, February, it's not going to look the same. So,
No, it's
so I
not.
think it's also partly kind of, partly because of where we're from. It's just not made for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Um, and you're seeking something different to get out of those blues. I get that. I would say like, because while we've been living here, we've done Asia, we've done Africa, we've done Europe, and everywhere in between. And I would say some of probably the ones that stick out would be Egypt. Like I absolutely loved Egypt. We went twice while we were here in the last 5 years. We liked it so much we went back a second time. So between like I'm also like a bit of a history buff. So anything that's historical, like the pyramids.
Yeah. Yeah.
Actually, we haven't even seen everything that I want to see in Egypt. So I'm really looking forward to another trip in the future. But between the beaches, the history, um, obviously the food is great, and everyone that we met there was so friendly and so nice. And it was a really good mix of all the things that really I love beach and history.
I enjoy that it was only like a four and I mean, not even if we were 10 hours away, we would want to go to Egypt. It doesn't really matter about how close it is,
Yeah.
but just having that proximity to it from Europe and then just the culture contrast, just like you are in a completely different type of world and with people and language. And it is like a nice way to remind yourself, like, okay, the world is so different in so
Yeah.
many places.
So that one stuck out. I would say also maybe our first weekend or first 2 weekends that we went to Sardinia, and for me that was like
Oh,
wow.
so good.
I didn't love the hotel situation. I feel like that's a problem I have with Italy. The hotels don't
Italy's
necessarily
tough.
match the quality, don't necessarily match the price, but the landscape, the beaches, the sea, like renting a little what do you call it? Like a catamaran, kind of not a catamaran, like a
It was a boat, but
we
it's
say
like a
boat,
four.
but
Yeah, it's like
it's
a 5-person boat. It was like a mini boat.
yeah, we like bringing our own snacks on board and like drinks, and you and me just like driving this thing into the little islands and the
The
inlets.
archipelago or whatever it's called.
Yeah, in the north of
I feel like
Sardinia.
we went to Sardinia at a time that it was. I feel like it's now becoming a little exploited. Like
You
it's
think so?
a little bit because everyone. I think they're probably seeing a lot more tourism in the since the pandemic than they have. I
Hmm.
think ever. Because when we went, I also found that it was so hard to find a hotel or like accommodations that we would like, not just because of like the price quality ratio that you were talking about, but more so I just feel like they weren't equipped. Like they're really an island that typically has Italians from the mainland coming over for vacation in the summer. Like I
Hmm.
feel like they had more of that vibe going on versus, oh, we're ready to like entertain the masses,
I see.
that
Okay.
kind of thing. So it felt very sacred when we went. It felt like no one knew. Like I feel like when I told people I was going to Sardinia, they're like, "Where?" And like even for us, I don't even remember how it like got on our map to want to go. I feel like we were talking about Corsica, and then it ended up we're like, oh, let's do Sardinia. We're looking at the
Yeah.
map or something. But that I agree, I think is like
Top
just gonna
five.
exploit it more.
Top five. We
Number
went
one
twice as well.
place, we went twice. Number one place, if you were to choose any island, I think in the Mediterranean, and that's really hard to say because I effing love other islands in the Mediterranean, but just the quality of water, like the northern part of Sardinia, that whole what was it called?
Olbia. Oh,
Maria,
Margarita
the
Island.
Margarita
I
Islands, the
think yeah.
archipelago, like that water there, I think is I thought it was more beautiful than like the Maldives, in
Sorry if we
my
butchered that.
opinion.
Sorry if we butchered the
Sorry,
name.
I definitely
It's like
butchered that.
yeah, something like Magdalene. I don't know. It's
Magdalene.
in the
Oh yeah,
north. It's by
Magdalena.
Olbia.
Yeah, yeah.
It kind of
Yeah,
fits
we
in
flew into
between
Olbia
Corsica
and then
and Sardinia.
we stayed in Palau. That's what it was.
Yeah, Palau. That's what it was.
I agree. That was a number one trip. Some of the ones I listed here, I think Sevilla was great. We stayed there during the pandemic
Yeah.
for like a week, and that was really nice to just feel like a
Oh, you
local.
have a little list over here.
I
Okay.
do. Budapest was a really pleasant surprise to me. I was not expecting to love it so
It
much.
was great. Yeah.
Copenhagen was so much fun. And I think Saas-Fee in Switzerland was one of our favorite alpine trips that we've taken.
Yeah, that one. It was a great weekend.
Um,
There's just so many, and I wasn't even thinking about Switzerland itself, but yeah, there's so many towns, so many experiences. honestly, it's been great, and the list can go on. I think we have never been to a country since we've been here that we're like,
Ooh, what's our worst trip? I already know which one
yeah,
of
I know
mine
what you're thinking
is.
too.
One, two, three,
Germany,
Berlin.
yeah. First of all, the Swiss and German thing, it's always a thing, but yeah,
No,
Berlin
but I
was
like other
we
parts
had a
of.
very unique experience in Berlin, that's for sure, in December.
Yes, yes. Our first December here, I just found it to be like the energy was off for me.
Yeah.
The first night was great, and then like the rest of the time, I'm like, oh my god, what is this dark cloud over the city? The energy was
A
just
lot of
draining.
shady, yeah, it was very,
I
yeah.
wasn't
And we were like in good parts.
expecting. I
Yeah.
keep saying, oh, we weren't expecting. It's like as if we don't have like Google at our fingertips and to know what to like expect, but we were not expecting
Uh,
that. It was,
I have been back to Berlin for work since
yeah,
then,
and
and
you
I will
liked it
say I've
better.
seen other parts of it, and
Yeah,
and I had a different vibe, totally different vibe when I went in the
yeah.
springtime. Oh, we
Um,
didn't even talk about Vienna. Vienna was a great, the Christmas markets in
Oh my
Vienna.
god, Christmas
What a great
markets.
weekend. Yeah.
Christmas
Vienna is such a
markets.
great city, honestly.
Yo, it's about to be Christmas market season here and I'm
Yeah.
so hyped.
Actually, I think the one in Zurich opens next week. Yeah. And
I
I
don't
saw November
remember.
7th. Yeah. Also,
That
happy
is so
Halloween. It's Halloween.
exciting.
Happy Diwali for all the listeners celebrating Diwali as well.
Yes. And this episode's not coming out until December 4th, so it'll be a little delayed.
Can still celebrate though.
But the Christmas markets will still be popping, and that is definitely like anyone who has come to visit us during Christmas market season has gone home so happy that they've experienced it.
And full.
Full on
Very
mulled
full.
wine, Gluckwein as they call here, and fondue and
Mm-hmm.
raclettes.
Lots of cheese.
And I mean, there's just so many food trucks. The Christmas
Sausages.
market, but
Bread.
even in Zurich, I feel like Zurich has a superior Christmas market setup display, in comparison to even other, like in Paris, I felt like it wasn't like it was nice. It's still all over Europe. It's like nice and charming and good, but there are certain places that really hit the mark for a Christmas market.
Yeah.
I think Zurich is one of them. Vienna 100% was amazing. Yeah, I would say that would be like my number one Christmas
Yeah.
market place.
Vienna was great. There's still so many to see in Germany and France, but
But we've been to Colmar, Strasbourg. That those Christmas markets are beautiful too. Even if you don't celebrate Christmas, just going to the Christmas markets is so festive and fun and social with music
yeah,
and
it's not really about the
vibey.
holidays. It's more just like food and music
Yes,
and
yes,
like being
drinking.
together in a group. So, it's not
Mm-hmm.
even like a religious thing.
Seeing
It's
light
like,
shows, because they do a lot of like the Christmas lights and stuff. It's just
yeah,
about, yeah,
it's just more like, let's just enjoy company and food and good time.
yeah.
And that's all the things that we love. Right.
And I'm excited to have Leandro experience the Christmas markets this year because now he's like a little bit more aware. I think he's going to be like, oh my God, with like the
Mm-hmm.
lights and things. And I'm hyped.
Good. You can change his diapers because I know them diapers are going to be full,
I'm
full,
not going to
full,
be giving
full.
his ass fondue. I'll tell you that.
Lots of coal in those diapers.
We were laughing so hard because the first year we were here, we had so many guests come during the winter time. Like, I think at one point it was like we had a guest every week, like just transitioning out. Like, we were just like cleaning sheets and like the next person would come. It was like, each time somebody came, like, you want to give them the quintessential Swiss experience with fondue.
Of course.
We ate fondue probably like 15 times that season with no
So
exaggeration.
much.
And we would be, I think literally it took us until 2021 to work off
I
all
think
the
I
fondue
think
that
there's
was
still cheese in our arteries.
stuck. There probably is.
So much cheese though.
So much cheese. I highly recommend to come for the cheese and the chocolate here. My
Facts.
God, this is like time is going so fast. We're almost hitting an hour. So I definitely not going to get through all the topics today. But one more thing I would love to talk about. What do you love about living here? Because I feel like now we're at a place where we don't really know what our timeline looks like in Switzerland, but we know that the lifestyle here and everything we've been living like has kept us here for this long. So like, what do you think are some of the things that have kept you here and have kept you wanting to stay here?
Yeah. No, I get it. And like you said, it's a timely question because, every kind of towards the end of every year, we're always like, what's our plan? Like, and even though we say we don't like to make plans, we like to have a skeleton of like, what direction are we going in? As a couple,
100%.
as a family.
Yeah.
And we do like the pulse checks. So we've been thinking about this a lot. I've been thinking about this a lot. I think on a more practical level, like commuting in and out of the city from where we live, because we live in the suburbs now. Actually, really easy, and I think I would miss the reliability of the train, the cleanliness of the train, even in rush hours. Like, it's really compared to if you've ever been to Penn Station in New York at 5 p.m.
Lord, it is Animal Planet on steroids. It
You
is
like in Mean Girl?
stampedes.
If you ever watched Mean Girls,
Yeah.
and when Regina George like starts throwing all those papers of all the burned book pages that she copied, and the school goes crazy, that's what it feels like at a
Everyone's like,
micro level.
you're like, yeah.
That's Penn Station in New
Yeah,
York.
legit.
When New Jersey Transit announces what platform that train's gonna come
I
on.
think it's hilarious when we have other expat friends who have come and lived here that moved from like Colorado or California or somewhere else, like not New York. And they get so overwhelmed by the main train station here. And the main
Mm.
train station here it's big, but it is not like from a New York perspective, not overwhelming for 1 second. Like not 1 second to me is it overwhelming. It's actually pretty.
Whereas chaotic.
Girl, you have never been a sardine. You have never been a
And
sardine being punished by people. Oh my God, New York is crazy.
and that's one of the things that I like, to answer your question as well. It's like,
Mm.
the commute is like really easy,
It's
25
less
minutes door to
stressful.
door to door.
I
And
feel like your nervous system is like already high when you're commuting to New York. And I was used to that. I was used to like
yeah,
walking
and
out
you
my
have to be
door.
earlier. You have to go out earlier. It takes longer. There's more people. And it's just like, half of the battle is just getting to and from work. And then when you get to work, you're exhausted. You're like, I've already had a day.
Yeah. Or you're like
And it's 8
beefed up
a.m.
on some like pissed off juice. You're just like, all
Yeah.
right,
Like,
let's attack this work day, you
yeah,
know?
let me get an extra, extra large coffee. And like,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
I need it. I've already had a day.
Yeah. That's
I
true.
almost fought somebody on the way here. Like,
I know, no, it's true.
you
Like
know?
nervous system is like up and down the entire way to work, and you get to your desk, and you're like, ah. But yeah,
Yeah.
here much different, much more relaxed. I totally see that from a commuter business perspective. I can, yeah,
And
totally agree.
the less people here, so I really liked, it's like a manageable city. It helps with the anxiety. So I think that part is kind of what keeps me here too, is like that ease, that like, respect for each other, and everything about it. Like even our son's daycare, just like such a good experience.
Yeah, that's so
There's
true.
no cameras. I can't like spy on them. In the US, where I think if I had a kid in daycare in the US, I would want to see that camera live. What's
Yeah,
going on in there?
yeah.
There's just like this level of
There's like
like
an honor
trust and
system.
community.
Yeah,
That stuff really makes it hard to leave.
yeah.
You can really walk around here and kind of feel safe.
Definitely, the level of safety is really nice here.
The quality of stuff, like the quality of food here, is way better.
Oh yes.
Um, like I know the chicken tastes like chicken, the eggs taste like eggs. The strawberries are so good. The blueberries when they're in season, like
Oh, that was another thing. Like everything here in the supermarkets, like veggie and fruit wise, is only there when it's in season. Where in the States, you have access to like asparagus in the middle of the summer or strawberries in the middle of the winter. And I remember coming here and being like, where are the Brussels sprouts in the middle of July? And they're like, it's not October,
yeah,
November yet. Like, they're not in seed, they're not even being grown. And it gave me that appreciation for like, oh, like maybe we should be only eating these things when they are at their true time of being produced.
yeah.
And
So that's stuff that I also like, like to think that keep me here. It's like that
yeah, the awareness
what's
of
going
quality
inside
of
your
food.
body, the experience around you, that sense of community.
Because you
Um,
feel it when we go back to the States too, when we're eating, even like, after my dad passed, we've been like super particular about what we're putting in our bodies and whatnot. But even when you're particular about it in the States, it still has a different taste. There's still something different about it. And there's
yeah,
just too many brands. The markets here are much simpler. Like the aisles are much simpler, much more straightforward, less brands. Switzerland has very strict laws around ingredients and the foods that they want to distribute and stuff, and the brands they want to distribute. So I think I have to agree. I think the food is one of my number one things that I love about living here. Like just feeling
like
like I can
supermarket.
trust the market.
Yeah.
I walk into a shop right in Jersey now and I'm like I feel like they're trying to kill me. Like what is going on? Well, I loved your answers for that because I think those three things like really sum up the not sum up because there are so many other things that I love about living here, but I feel like it gives a nice spotlight on like the really important things that like truly alter quality of life, you
On
know,
like a day-to-day level.
on a day-to-day level for
Yeah.
sure. I also I have like literally an entire list of things that I love about living here, but since we're out of time, I just want to add one thing to it, is that I love the lake life here. We're coastal people. Growing up in Jersey, we had the shore. We were always near salt water, and I felt like being when we came to Switzerland, I thought feeling landlocked was gonna annoy me and not. I love saltwater, period.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you want access, but there's so many lakes here. Lake Zurich is, I mean, it has several beaches just around it, like for people to enjoy people treat the lake like the beach here. Like it's like going down the shore, but it's a 25-minute drive for us, or a 20-minute drive. Or when we first moved here, it was a 5-minute walk. Like I love the ambiance around the lake, like people just like grilling outside and all the kiosks with like the other, you can go there with or without a picnic basket. You'll have food, drinks. They also have a bunch of kids areas set up around the lake with like shallower water and like those fountains and everything. And I never knew that I would enjoy lake life as much as I do. And I feel like that affects my mental health and like quality of life in the summer here. Like I need that access to that. 100%. Man, I feel like I want to go through everything I want to say today.
You're just gonna have to invite me back.
I know we're gonna have to have a part two. We haven't even gone through like the pandemic, other challenges we faced. Really quick, how integrated do you think we've become as Zurchers? Zurchers.
Is it a scale?
Yes.
Like 1 to 10, or like yes or no?
1 to 10.
I think we're like a 6.
I think we're like a 7.5.
I think we're good at pretending we're like a 7.5. I think, like, if we're being honest and real, I think we're like a 6.
Fine, maybe.
Like we don't really speak the local language. Like we understand, we can say some things,
We
but
understand it.
we play by the rules. We do our part as citizens, as members of the community.
1000%.
But like I think we could do more. I think we could be better. Maybe I'm
Even
too harsh. Maybe I'm
more.
too critical.
I definitely think here it is so easy to not have to learn the local language. In Switzerland, they have 4 main languages, and we live in the area where German is the main language. And I took an A1 German class to just kind of like baseline know how to like ask for the bathroom, where to go, just so I can understand
Yeah, be
the
courteous and
language.
understand.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. And you took the A2 class as well, like one of the
No,
time, right? What is it? I keep
you
calling
always
it.
get this wrong.
I know.
That shows you how much you
Oops.
you did A11. I
I
did
did
A11 and I did
A1 too.
A12.
Okay. But it's very
Like
easy to
speak.
not feel like you need to fully integrate to survive here. It is, I mean, even at Credit Suisse, when you were working there, the main language was English that you were speaking in the office because there's so many different expats. Now
Yeah.
here at Google, obviously it's all ran by English speakers. And even just on the street, like 95% of people here do speak English, so it makes it very easy to not feel the need. And I guess I am just leaning it on language in terms of integration, because
I think language is it's like a domino effect. So I think when you speak the local language, it opens up so many social and other doors for you here.
yeah, I totally agree.
Whereas focusing, and we speak other languages, but English is the common one. We ourselves, so because it's the common one, we lean into it, and I gotta say, I appreciate the locals for making it more comfortable for us to be able to speak English.
Yeah. Okay. Last note. Any tips for anyone who is thinking of moving to Zurich? It's a trap. Don't do it. You think you'll be exactly. Do it if you're ready to say. If you're coming here for a set amount of time, add 2 to 3 years to that, and that'll be like the realistic amount of time you'll be spending here.
I don't think my tip would be specific to Zurich. I think anytime you're going to move to a new city, I think you just gotta throw some thoughts, out of your head, in terms of
Expectations.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Just because if we were to continuously compare Zurich to New York, we may never like Zurich. You know what I mean?
that's so
It's
true.
the opposite.
That's so true.
And
And it's very easy to, like, when you go somewhere new, even when we travel, we're like, oh, this reminds me of Brazil, or oh, this reminds me of Italy. Like, your brain wants to create like a relative.
I think that's the human thing.
It is a human thing
You don't understand it, so you need to compare it to something that you do understand.
that makes you feel safer. Like, you do get it. Yeah. Uh-huh.
And I think in Zurich, it's a small city. It's all the positives that we mentioned. And I think that if you come in with some expectations, or you come in like kind of already feeling a certain type of way, whether it's good or bad, it could fall short of your expectations, you know?
Yeah.
So I would
Yeah.
say for any city you're moving to, whether it's in your country, outside of your country, just be open to the experience. Don't come to it like you know everything, you know, really lean into it and just absorb it and like process it as much as possible while it's happening, because it's so exciting.
It is so exciting. It's like be flexible. I feel like everything you learn each day when you're somewhere new like this is changing you. It's like molding you, and you don't even realize it until time has passed and you can retrospectively see the differences within yourself. So, sometimes the things you resist are actually the things that will serve you the most. And damn, if anyone is about to be moving to a new city, I envy that honeymoon phase. It is such an exciting time.
And I will add to it is that I see it as like a different life. So only so many times in life can you have another life to live.
Yeah.
So this is our
That was
first life.
beautiful. I
Yeah.
loved that.
There's some kind of quote that says like, each language that you speak is like a
Mm,
different life, right?
yeah.
And I feel like when you move cities, when you move towns, when you move countries, it's the same thing. It's like, let's try this life. Let's see what this life is like, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think when you approach it that way, and you don't resist things, and you're just like, you just want to learn, right? It's all about learning and changing perspective and seeing what else is out there. Live this life, live that life that you're about to live it to its fullest, get the most out of it as you can. And if it's for the rest of your life, if that's your final life, that's great. And if you realize, you know what, this is really great, but I feel like there's another life I still got to live.
Yeah.
Take all the positives and the learnings that you have from this one and take it to the next one. But don't be too afraid to make that leap and take that risk if you have the opportunity to do it.
Especially if you're getting that little voice inside your head that keeps telling you to do it. There's probably a reason. That was really well said, BM.
Thanks.
I think it's the perfect note to end on. I'm so sad this is over because there's so much more to uncover, but I loved having you here. Thank you for being my very first guest on Late Checkout.
Of course. I mean, I wouldn't miss this for the world.
Oh, I love it. I love it. I guess we got to get out of here. It's time for a little schnoonie.
Yeah. Cue up the music.
Switch
And thank you
schnoonie.
all for listening and for watching.
Yes, guys, we'll see you next week and we'll talk soon. Ciao, ciao.